does it con? At Wusku Konfantin. Sakajik. Knik, ye hot to teach. Knik, yen gati. Tlingit hot kill Somalia. Tlingit hot kill Somalia. Your clunky cocksuck do off. Your clunky cocksuck do off. Hey, whoosh does it con? Teach. Knik, ye hana teach ya hey ya hey. Knik, ye gati. Knik, ye gati ya hey ya hey. Tlingit hot kill Somalia. Tlingit hot kill Somalia hey ya hey. Your clunky cocksuck do off. Does it on? Does it on?
All right, Ganesh, welcome to today's Native Issues Forum, hosted by Tlingit Haida. My name is Misha Jackson. I am the Tribal Education Liaison in the Education Development Department. I just want to give a quick shout out to our comms team, Dixie Hutchinson and crew, for helping facilitate and set up this meeting. Heather Gotti and Jill White in our government affairs that are always supporting us through this, and a special shout out to Kendry Caesar, who was flyering and helping send out emails, which is probably part of the reason you guys are here today. So, a special shout out to our Tlingit and Haida crew that helped set this up. And we are here today to focus on House Bill 59, SB 66, and the movement towards state tribal education compacting. We're joined by representatives from the 5 tribal governments leading this work, and representatives from the Alaska Department of Education and Early Development. So here with us today, we have Carl Chamblee, the Education Director from Knik Tribe, Commissioner Dr. Deena Bishop with the Alaska Department of Education and Early Development. I believe Deputy Commissioner Karen Morrison will be joining us as well. We also have Dr. Joel Isaac, who is serving as the compacting consultant, but probably the longest running brain on this project. So we're happy he's able to join us. We also have Maddie Avlana Stimpf. Whew, I'm going to get that whole thing. We just call her Maddie. She's from King Island Native Community and their consortium that is working up in the Nome region. We also have Mark Roseberry, Education Director, School Administrator with ICASC and Quargi Academy. And Sonia Scan, Education and Training Director from Ketchikan Indian Community. Each panelist will have the opportunity to respond to a few key questions as we work together to tell the story of state tribal education compacting in Alaska and provide information and context on the bill that is being considered by the legislator this session. We will also save some time for audience question and answer at the end. And let's get this party started. So we're going to start with the first section is on really just about 20 minutes we've dedicated towards sharing the foundations and perspectives of state tribal education compacting. So I'm hoping we can begin with a shared understanding on what is HB 59 and why it is important for Alaska and education. I would personally love to see if Joel wouldn't mind starting us off with this one since he has the longest history on this project. Go ahead, Joel.
Janan, Yagli do everyone, Joel Isaac Shiiji, it's good to see you. So just a very high level overview about what HB 59 does is it is a continuation of what was started back with was then Senate Bill 34, which called for a demonstration of what we would take for tribal compacted public schools to come online. So that was a bill that was passed a few years ago. We negotiated between the department and the 5 tribes a legislative report that was transmitted in January of 2024 to the state legislature. That report included the findings from the negotiations, a draft compact, and what the tribe's positions were, what the department's positions were, and then seeing what needed to take place in policy to be crafted into law. So that's what that report did. There were 3 main areas of the report that you can see in HB 59 is governance, the teaching personnel, and funding were the main 3 areas that we talked through and organized information. So HB 59 is a continuation of that work. The mechanism of HB 59 is on codified law. What that means is that this as a pilot does not amend or change any of the existing Title 14 public laws, but can interface with public law. So the mechanism, that's the legal mechanism, what that does is it helps protect both the pilot and then also keep Title 14 intact. So while you're exploring things, sometimes little nuts and bolts need to be attached, and that's what this allows with it being on codified law. So that's the vehicle. And then what it does is those 3 areas. The funding is treated like other school districts that don't have taxing authority in their regional area. So like an REAA, for example, does not have a local contribution, and it is run through the foundation formula to using the BSA and generates a number based on the adjusted average daily membership. That is the same mechanism that HB 59 would have these tribally compacted public schools be using. And so that's a known factor of what all those things are. So that's the money that would be generated and how it would be generated or calculated. And then the teaching piece, with the tribally compacted public schools, the tribes working with existing regulations and existing law would develop and put on file with the department how they're certifying or training their teachers. And so still have to follow the Alaska Reads Act and the things that are in statutes for the skills that are necessary, but tribes have a greater hand in training the staff to carry out the public education in these tribally compacted public schools. So that's the staff piece. The critical piece also is that the staff would be employees of the tribe. And so the tribes function as a school district, and that's using that BSA foundation formula calculation. Then they hire their own staff and to carry out the educational services, just like any other LEA does. And then the governance piece, that would be the tribe also setting up an education body that oversees the school. And so in this case, similar to like a local school board, so the tribe sets up an education board or a committee, however the tribes have called their different governing bodies. And that allows the direction of the school and the leadership to have that piece of the sovereignty as well, and that direction to be there. And then the reporting that goes with that governance is the same type of report to the legislature every year that goes out for how school districts are doing, making information publicly available. All of those same reporting mechanisms are in place. So that's like in a nutshell what it does. The compacts, there's 2 years for the schools to come online, and then 5 years for the pilot to actually run. So that's the length of this bill. And something would have to change down the road as far as new legislation to make this permanent, with any adjustments that might be recommended of knowledge gained from doing the pilot. So that's the term of it. And then one of the other pieces around this as a compact, there's a lot of questions, like that's a high level overview. There might be questions like, well, what would be the board policies, and what would be like the school's policies for doing discipline, or all those kinds of things. Those have to be in writing, part of the negotiated compact agreement, before the school actually gets funding to get off the ground. So a lot of the unknowns that you might think like, oh, all the what ifs, like how are you going to address that? All of those will be determined through the compact negotiation, and then make sure that they are in compliance with existing laws and regulations. And then the compact is signed, and then that's when the school gets the funding to start. So I'll pause there, Commissioner. If there's anything that you would like to add to that piece as well, please go ahead.
I think you did a great job in presenting that. And one of the things to understand is the tribal compact would allow the tribal school to, again, operate as its own entity in its own district. And it's very similar to the language that we presently have for Mount Edgecombe, where Mount Edgecombe is a school, but it's really considered a district as far as the state is concerned with funding.
Much appreciated for that. And I know this was a great way to lead off with exactly where we're at this moment in time with HB 59. I went ahead and dropped in what was introduced, and I'll continue for folks that are online dropping in some links as well. I think this is a great opportunity where I can open up to a couple of our tribal representatives, if you guys wouldn't mind speaking to what led your tribe to pursue this compacting opportunity and this relationship with the Department of Education, as well as what does your tribe hope to create through a compact school?
Misha, this is Mark Roseberry with Nupia Community of the Arctic. You know, we're the other regional tribe in the state of Alaska, and as a sovereign tribe, we have a constitution, and within the constitution, education is one of those areas that the tribe has a responsibility to provide to its citizens. So, in looking at that, ICAS about 4 years ago decided to move forward, develop an education department that's covered by ordinances, and like any other sovereign government, create code to operate the education system. And in the process, we also set up a tribal school. And these school itself and the education department focuses on the what is important to the Inupiat people and what is important in our region. And so in looking at it, it was the responsibility of our tribe to provide an option for educating our citizens on the North Slope. So that's why we had done that, and we implemented it. And we do have a tribal school called Academy Tribal School.
Thank you,
Hi.
Mark. Oh, go ahead, Sonia.
Hi. Oh, you can go ahead, Maddie.
Okay, so part of our tribe's mission, and I'm representing King Island Native community as well as the Village of Solomon. So part of our mission, the mission statement for both of our tribes, is to promote the well-being of our people and to keep our language and culture alive. Language and culture are inseparable. By keeping our language alive, it will contribute to the well-being of our tribal members. We also hope to allow our students to know themselves and who they truly are as Inupiaq people. Knowledge of language is vital to understanding our unique cultural perspectives. Language is considered a tool that students can use to explore and experience the world through our own perspectives that is embedded in our Inupiaq language. We want to ensure the survival of our language by teaching our children through our languages. Kuyanak. Take it away, Sonia.
I apologize if I just got out of the dentist, so if I sound a little funny. One of the things that I think that has driven our tribe to push forward in this is we have had a high school for 14 years that started with a A&E grant and has continued. And it is something that we know works for all of our kids. This is not just for Native kids. When we do things for all kids because all kids are the ones who are impacted. And having our own public school as a tribe, we can create the things that we know work really well for our children. So in doing the high school, there's things that we've learned over the last, 14 years. And part of those things are that the hands-on learning, getting out there, and we're cutting up seals and we're doing things to teach subsistence, to teach how to live off the land, to teach how to put up foods, to do all of those things. And that's good for everyone, but it is part of learning. And when you include language along with that, you are also getting the language, and it's creating pathways for peoples whose brains don't always work the same, but yet we do learn. Everyone learns different, but when we put the learning to where we know the person that has the hardest time learning, and we're focusing and giving all of that information, everybody succeeds, instead of just having it to where we're focusing on the kids that are doing really well. So, so I think that what drew me in initially was I was at a conference and I met Joel, and he started talking to me about this. And this was 2018, 19, I don't know. Anyway, it was a while ago. It was before COVID. And then, but it is something that I think it's time for, because we're talking about school choice. We're talking about those things. This gives an opportunity, especially in the smaller villages and in the smaller rural areas, to allow for others to have a choice and to be able to say, this is what works for my kids. And I know in Ketchikan, we have a couple of charter schools that give a little bit of a choice, but they're also focused on the lower grades. And so
So we are always looking for ways that can build and help and do better for our kids. And I just really love that we've gotten so much support from the state, that Joel has worked so hard on this, and we appreciate that so much as the tribes being involved. It was the year's worth of time that we spent together really impacted all of us. I think we kind of all bonded, but also it did impact us in a way that we can see what each other's doing, we can help each other, and you know, maybe learn what not to do in some cases. But anyway, it's been great, and I think that this is an opportunity that should be allowed for every state. And I love that our state is kind of one of the forefronts of doing this. Thank you.
Misha, would you like to go?
Go right ahead, Carl.
Okay, so Carl Chamblee with Knik tribe, which is located in the upper Cook Inlet area of the state. Basically, we're in the middle of Wasilla. So I started working with Knik tribe about 5 years ago, and we did similar to what Mark was talking about. We did a code of ordinances under the constitution of the Knik tribe to establish an education department. And then we also wrote grants to take steps to open a charter school. So we did that 3 years ago. We opened up a charter school here with the Matsuboro School District. We started with 80 students and have slowly grown it to about 240 students. And we're almost at capacity currently. It's a K-12 school. It's a correspondence school, statewide correspondence school as well. So it's been quite a project. We have quite a great population. As a charter school, we knew that was going to be a stepping stone to compacting. So we were aware of the movement towards compacting 5 years ago. It was housed in the Alaska Education Challenge as a possible way forward. And so knowing that, we thought we'd get a little bit ahead of the curve, try to establish a school, see how much interest there was in it. And it's turned out to be a lot of interest here in the Valley for what we're offering. And so we're rocking and rolling. If you listen closely, you can probably hear the cafeteria behind me with about 50 kids having lunch right now. So that's where we're at, and we're excited about it. The tribe owns the property where the school is located. The facility, the tribe owns as well. And the school leases the facility from the tribe. The governing board of the charter school is appointed. 4 of the 7 members are appointed by the tribal council. So it's essentially a tribally governed charter school. Currently, by going into compacting, we would be able to determine our graduation requirements, our teacher certification, determine more directly our budget and our spending, our staff development, our transportation, all those components that go into running a school or a district on a large level. Those we would have direct control of. So compacting is an excellent tool for us to be able to accomplish that here in the Valley. Obviously, we're offering something that people like and are taking advantage of. We have 100 cars backed up every morning dropping our kids off, and 100 cars backed up every afternoon picking their kids up. So it's a close working relationship between Knik tribe and the charter school, and we're on the same campus. We have education services that serve homeschool students as well, whether they're enrolled in the school or not. We offer summer programming, spring break programming, Christmas break programming, and before and after school programming. So we're trying to be a one-stop shop. We have family culture nights every 2 weeks. So we're also trying to create a community where we have a lot of Alaska Natives that live in the Valley, but there was no real central location for everybody to come together around something, and education and culture is our focus here. And that's what we bring people around. So thanks for having me. Thanks for this opportunity, Misha. Thanks for all your work.
Thanks, Carl. Always appreciate what Knik Tribe is doing up there, like going through the process. And I would just speak in terms of Tlingit and Haida's interest is, we successfully run early education opportunities. We have been successfully partnering inside of schools through Johnson O'Malley historically for 50 plus years, supporting students graduate. So starting on those two bookends, this was really an opportunity for the tribe to pursue sovereignty in education, self-determination, self-governance. And that is in itself the missing piece for the past 150 years is tribes haven't been at that table to dictate, to govern, to structure, and to really build from the ground up with tribal values, with cultural values, with community values and initiatives and family engagement in all processes, policies, standards, expectations. And these are things all schools do now and should be doing, but it's different when you can start the infrastructure from the ground up. And we're in that place where that's what we would be starting. And that's a really exciting opportunity for us, as well as we think for our community, our families. We have a lot of success with our language immersion nest. It's our pride and joy. Those babies are speaking and hearing Tlingit all day for 3 days every week. And there is nothing more beautiful than revitalizing your language. So I think I would swing this back to our deed partners for one question before we move into the next one. But I think really wanted to take the time to show and to demonstrate like this is a true partnership. This has been 8+ months, 18 months of listening to each other, being transparent, having those conversations, and really want to give them the opportunity for the state to discuss how they view what they've heard from some of the tribal partners in terms of how HB 59 supports public education, tribal sovereignty, and innovation.
So thank you, Misha. So again, my name's Deena Bishop, and I serve as the commissioner. Happily serve Alaska in this, and this is one of the most exciting projects of my 35-year career. I started in 1990 in the state of Alaska, so this is exciting for me. I wanted to start by just sharing, Carl did mention the Alaska's Challenge, and that was finalized. It was actually organized under Governor Walker, but finalized under Governor Dunleavy. And one of those pieces of the challenge was to actually move towards tribally compacted schools. So, and that was 2016. And then a few years later, we're in the 32nd legislature, I believe, SB 34 passed that had what Joel mentioned in having a demonstration. So that's when we worked together. And now in the 34th legislature, we actually have a bill that's come forward. And as the governor sees this, it is just another step. You've heard each of these tribal organizations share, they're not new to education. They're not new to understanding how children learn. It is just the next step in the process. And we're excited for that, which would allow for another option of choice for families for public education. So this is a public education school, and all kids are welcome. In fact, out at Knik, you'll see lots of Valley kids that are Alaska Native and then some that aren't. And so it really is a joy to see that coming together for a public school option. And the governor supports that and believes that the tribes and their families really know best. And he expects that these schools will serve Alaska Native children well as others, and really understanding the history of our state and moving forward. And we do have evidence, and I want to share this just as a side note. So we have some tribal or immersion programs in charters now, similar to Knik, in different places around Alaska, Bethel. We have Nome, we have one here in Anchorage. And what we found in their charters, and this last year was the first year that the National Assessment of Education Progress provided data on charter schools. And what we found that in Alaska, usually know Alaska doesn't do so well with those kinds of testing. But what we found is that for charters, we were #1. And when we started to dig into it, we was like, how can we go from 49th to #1, 49th with all of our schools, but when you just consider the charters. And interesting enough, when we looked at the data, that there's categories of the federal government, the non-white students were what made us #1. And we know that over half of those charter schools were really focused on the young people of Alaska and Alaska Native children. So I would say that there's strong evidence, not just anecdotally in what we have, but at the national level for the success of children in these programs. So for the tribal sovereignty, as everyone said, from deciding the graduation, of course, aligned with statute, and that's what HB 59, sets the guidance for. But then there's flexibility within that guidance to be able to set up the certification, the graduation rate, as you said, but all of the other accounting, the accountability, the financing, the reporting, all of those pieces are still there. So it's still a public school and the expectations of law will be there, but it allows the flexibility and finally the innovation that we're going to need. Just as there was evidence by that NAEP about our schools that do succeed, we have years and years and years of information that demonstrates we're not succeeding with all populations in Alaska, and especially with our Alaska Native youth. And so for me, this is an opportunity to turn that around, and I'm excited.
Geez, Dr. Bishop. Joel, did you want to circle back and add something?
Thank you, Commissioner. That really is helpful to position like how this came to be. And the other thing that I would add to it that you've been a big part of as well is the amount of public comment that's gone into this. And you touched on that with the Alaska Education Challenge. The 16 to 20 hearings that went into what became Senate Bill 34 were all public hearings. During the 10 months of negotiation, the State Board of Education had quarterly meetings where there was reports given on the progress and people had a chance to provide public comment. The report that was sent to the board in December of 2023 had a comment window before it was finalized by the board in January of 2024. So that's the recent public comment. It's been over 3 years of legislative state board and then informational meetings the department hosted before COVID. They were face-to-face. We've had Zoom meetings during COVID and since COVID, conference presentations presenting at AASB, at ALASBO, the Alaska Association of School Business Officers, if I got the acronym right. So a lot of public input. And then the commissioner also touched on the Alaska Education Challenge. As I've had the chance to talk to people about how the IHS compact came to be, one of the super interesting things to me that I want to share with the group too, is that this conversation around education, while more recently has bubbled up in the 2016, 17, 2020s, it started in the early 1990s. And so this has been a long-standing direction for tribes advocating for and a lot of public input in this process. So we're at this opportunity now where there is a bill that is a standalone bill to be able to pilot, and that's very exciting. And the other thing about that standalone bill is that as it's written right now, there's nothing else is affecting it. So it's very clean to being just compacting. And that allows the well-researched legal foundations to be able to show that this pilot does this because it's tight to what it's just compacting. Mm-hmm. And the commissioner mentioned data for outcomes. It allows to track those data moving forward very cleanly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's key. That was important for the governor that this not be tied to something else that might be controversial, that it wouldn't get as much support, or the focus would be drawn somewhere else and the narrative would change. This is what this is about, is moving education forward, and exciting.
Much appreciated, Dr. Bishop, Dr. Isaac, especially as tribes where we can often be the last conversation or the last people at a table. That is appreciated for us to have this separate bill as well. I can't emphasize that enough. So we're going to move into another section and continue this conversation. I'm going to open this one up to Mark to start us off, but really as we described what it looks like and what some of the tribes have already been doing to prepare for implementation, how How might compact schools work alongside existing school districts and ensure smooth transitions for students and families?
And again, this is Mark Roseberry, and I just wanted to share is a great opportunity. And as you all know, I live in a remote area where we don't, our road system is, right now we have snow roads that can bring stuff in, but it's only during the winter seasons and everything. And so there's a lot of limitations in rural areas, and tribal compacting is a strength-based approach where the tribe, the local school district, or local school, district and community can come together. And they come together by, for instance, we have MOAs already between the tribe, and we have a organization we call the quadrilateral, or working groups that were focused on education, supporting each other in career opportunities, supporting our students. Tribes have access to tribal sources of funding like grants and things specifically for tribes that the state or local school districts don't have access to. We also have resources. The tribes are local. They have resources locally that can support the school systems. They can help with the connection between the school and the community. For instance, I'm right now I'm in Nuiqsut, and in a hotel room here, and I met with the city of Nuiqsut, and we met with a village corporation, Knik Corporation. We're meeting with the trilateral, and then the school district. I was over at the school district talking with the counselors, and we work together. And what this does is it brings our students more opportunities, and it opens the door for more opportunities for our students, and it opens the door for supporting students that need options for education. And our students flow seamlessly between the tribal school and the district, the school district here. Sometimes we have a correspondence portion. Sometimes that doesn't work for all of our students, and we work with the school district, so everything's seamless. Or if it goes the other way and there's a student that our program works better for them, we're meeting with them, and the school district's getting all the information, because both of us and all of the communities are student focused. And that's the important thing, that you have that student focus. And when you do, it's a strength-based approach, because everyone wants to see our students succeed, and our parents supported, and our community supported, and have healthy communities, and our students to have the most opportunities that they can have. So this partnership brings locally a vastly larger options in careers, in support, in like things that in language and culture, learning the local culture and things for subsistence. In our villages, it's really important to understand it can be dangerous going out on the tundra in the Arctic, and learning those skills, those basic skills, or life skills, when you're living in the villages. So the tribes can bring that expertise to the school district. A lot of our school district teachers come from out of town, and they themselves aren't necessarily aware of the dangers, and the tribe can help bring that. So this partnership isn't something that takes away from education, but adds to it in a much larger way. Thank you.
Goodness, geez, Mark. I would open this to Sonia or Carl if you guys want to speak to this one at all, since I know you guys also operate schools right now, so can speak to this pretty well.
I'll say something real quick. So we do have just the high school right now. So it's 9th through 12th. And we are very excited about seeing the growth in the kids that we have. We are very excited about, the graduates that we have. A lot of kids have graduated a year early. Some kids are, we're working on different platforms and different things to just see what really works for our kids, and working with them from the beginning and talking to them about what is needed is so important. And I think that model works for any school. I don't think it's just a tribally controlled school or a tribally, run school, but the biggest thing we want to do is to help and to make sure that whatever model we have, that we're able to share that with others, so so that if other tribes want to do this, they will be able to, and they will already have a model set out for them. And I think that most of us here are feeling that way, like we feel a responsibility, a heavy responsibility to make sure that other people know what's going on and how we're doing it and what it looks like and what we can do to help bring those things forward, and curriculum in like how we do our structure, all of those things. So I think that in doing a school, it's not just about like we have a school and it's this and it's cool. It's about the fact that, hey, we have one, you could have one. Here's what we can do. Let's work together. So I think that in the state of Alaska, we're large, but we're also small in the sense that, you know, we all are able to get together to talk, to learn from each other and to use what works in our area, because we know that all the areas, Misha, you're in Juneau, but what works here doesn't always work there, and what works there doesn't always work here. So, I mean, you would think that just the smaller communities, but it's everywhere. So I think that sharing and being allowed these type of forums to where we can talk about why and what we're doing. And the why obviously is we all want what's best for kids. And that's number one. So.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's really about creating something that really works for the students and families, but also can be replicated and depending on the situation. But every situation is a little bit different. Every community is a little bit different. The capacity of people that you have that have passion about this project or these projects is different. And so picking up from where you feel comfortable, what we did in starting the charter school was really just take the charter school application that's available on the state website and just go through that with the community members. We had over 40 community meetings, and we established a mission and a vision. We talked about grade levels and how we would answer all those application questions, and our curriculum, our instruction, how we would serve special ed students, how we would serve other special populations, how we would integrate culture into the existing curriculum. So we didn't have to create an entire new curriculum in the process of starting up a school and establishing facilities and training staff and all those things that go into opening a school. It's one thing to take money and put it into an existing school, but creating a school from basically scratch out of thin air takes a lot of time and effort, and the less that you have to reinvent the wheel, the better you are. We work closely with the school district. We have students that come to us from other schools and go out to other schools. We look at their transcripts. We make sure they have enough credits to graduate. If they don't, we help them find the courses that they need. We provide the courses that they need. The tribe provides CTE programming through an MOA with the district, and we have instructors and classes that we provide to our high school and middle school students, and we have a teacher of record that will assign credit for those students. So and we're in year 3, so it's, you know, all these MOAs, memorandums of agreement and understanding and working through these processes has helped us to where we can work closely. And if we have students that come to the tribe's education offerings from other districts, we'll provide them with a certificate, how many hours, what the topics were, a syllabus. They can bring that back to their district and ask their district to award credit. So understanding how districts work is helpful in this whole process, but there's willing partners everywhere I've turned. There's been a support network, people that see the need and willing to step up and help. There's regulations that get in the way, and some of those we can deal with if we go into compacting, but for the most part, it's just it's a project and it's a service that we're providing students that most everybody I've talked to says has long been needed here in the Valley, but I think in Alaska as a whole. I've lived in rural Alaska for over 18 years and taught and was an administrator. in rural Alaska, and I've consulted with rural school districts. So the need is really everywhere to make schools more local, and the school staff more represent the community that the school is in. And that's something that we're working towards all the time. But, you know, in 10 years, it might look different than it looks now, but it's baby steps in building the plane as you fly it. And, you know, that just takes time. Go slow to go far is what I've heard people say.
Geez, Carl, I think especially as you guys are leading the way in already existing operations, that's really helpful to share with the folks that are online. I know for Tlingit and Haida, especially something we just look at is the history of what's been allowed and not allowed, and how we can continue to strengthen the partnerships, and really being able to continue really deep partnerships with local school districts to make sure there's tribal consultation happening on lots of different ends, as well as increasing collaboration. There is a lot out there already to set up systems to support Native American languages. We have the Native American Languages Act. We have regulations in Title 14 that allow the hiring of teachers and staff that represent the cultures and diversity of our students. We have Type M certificates. So we have these different mechanisms, but being able to center those is really something that's kind of unique, and as well as support our teachers through our own training. I think that combination is where we're really going to be able to partner and strengthen school districts throughout Alaska, as well as the ones right next to them. So I want to lead that, basically a long-winded lead in for Kiminak Maddie. How do you envision, because you guys are our partners up north who have already done this in the K-12 setting at that young age group in the public schools, how do you envision compact schools supporting Indigenous language and cultural revitalization?
Thank you, Misha. And yes, this is Kiminak Maddie Alvanas Dimple. I'm zooming in from Nome this morning. Last year and since 2020, we operated, we had a kindergarten, first grade Inupiaq immersion classrooms within Nome Public Schools. And from that, what we envision for our tribes, so how compact schools support Indigenous language and cultural revitalization is, it's well known that immersion schools are some of the most successful ways Indigenous communities have revitalized their languages. Hawaii and New Zealand, they've used language nests and immersion schools as vehicles for their languages and their people to thrive in today's world. So, and here in Alaska, many of my Yupik speaking friends who are my age, they attended Yupik, the Yupik Immersion School down in Bethel that was mentioned earlier, Ayaprun. And today Yupik is the second most spoken Indigenous language in the nation with 19,000 speakers. And they're right behind Navajo, which is the most spoken native language in the US. So I envision compact schools leading not only language revitalization, but as another linguist I've learned about, Ryan DeCare, a Mohawk speaker, he stated that it is said that people revitalize a language, but really it's the language that revitalized the people. So that's how I envision the potential outcome of our compact schools to revitalize our Alaska Native people and just and the people of our state.
Goodness, geez. And as we continue this conversation about partnerships and the current school districts, as well as adding in these new compact schools, to our deed representatives, can you guys speak to the measures that are built into HB 59 and current regulations that will ensure support for both tribally compacted schools and existing school districts?
Sure. So I'll start, Deena Bishop again, and then allow Karen, the deputy, to maybe share the financial pieces. But one thing that this does, and Joel had mentioned it, is it does share that it is a demonstration project. It has a beginning and an end date, so everybody knows, you know, the process. And within the law, it talks about the Alaska statutes, and you can see that they are the same as the statutes of Title 14 that will be followed in a school. And so it's really moving along a parallel. It isn't treated as getting something more or something, or a district getting something less, or it really is a model school built off of the statutes that we have that simply allow more flexibility. Charter schools initially allowed about a 50% flexibility, and this is taking it a step further, having that school with the added flexibility of some other items that we know are important. Teachers, as Maddie, sorry, Maddie, your first name, but that she shared that, you know, the language is important, and we have some, and this allows that expansion of that flexibility within that system. Somebody mentioned a fiscal note. This is where some things might be different, especially those that are in incorporated cities. The tribal schools are not going to be given a local contribution in taxes. So that is going to operate differently. So even if you're in a taxable area, your tribal school is really going to operate as an REAA, which, you know, is a difference. And so districts should, you know, and boroughs are not, and municipalities are not going to be directly funding the tribal schools. It is going to be from the state of Alaska, very similar to Mount Edgecombe. The finances that are set up for this have been demonstrated since the 1980s when Mount Edgecombe was reopened as the state of Alaska school. So it's funded in that manner. So that's one thing that is different than a local area. And I believe most of the places do have local. So I'll go ahead, if there's anything else, but I'm trying to think. It's basically allows for options similar to district schools. The rules have to be followed the same. It's really, again, a parallel in school options. There is a startup of per kid, which is the only thing different in the finances other than the local school district and REAA with a taxable authority. And this is very similar to when the initial start of charter schools. And for about 15 years that we've had charter schools for about 30 now. But in those first 15 years, there was a startup grant for every student. I believe it was $450 at the time from the state of Alaska. And at this time, there is a startup grant per pupil in this bill as well, to be able to really buy the things you need to initially, the desks, the paper, and the materials as you get started. And then you would receive your student foundation formula according to REAA and your student enrollment. So there isn't any more or any less. It just runs through the state established formula. So I think that, I'm not sure if that helps explain everything, but again, the best thing is a parallel model with the state formula, regulations, statutes, things like that. Karen, do you want to have anything to add?
You did a great job explaining that. I guess the only other thing I would add is really the tribally compacted public schools are going to follow the state's foundation formula that's already in the statute, 1417 410. It will use the district cost factor that's the associated school district. So that's the only, that's currently how it is now, but just another little piece of information. And the startup cost is 45% of the base student allocation. So for fiscal 26 at this point, that's 5,960. And so that'll be startup funding for the first year of operation for the schools.
Goodness, geez, Karen.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm
I was
sorry.
gonna say, I'll hold space for you guys to wrap up any of those thoughts.
And I do want to share, there's I think it's Misty on there, just a concern that all schools, and of course, this is how the governor comes at this, is that, you know, all schools in Alaska, there is one system of, you know, public education. These tribal schools are going to be public schools and follow in those statutes and are funded in the same way, insofar as just not the local contribution piece if you're in a local area. But it's an opportunity for all students in Alaska, and especially our Alaska Native students to learn in a different setting, perhaps with different pedagogy, to achieve those same outcomes and goals that the state has for all children.
Goodness, geez, I see Dr. Isaac smiling. I don't know if he wants to unmute or not. So,
I was just I'm excited about the topic, and I think what the commissioner just said, just re-emphasizing that, like, these are public schools, and again, using the same statutes. They're listed in the bill. This is part of that one system of education, but it empowers and creates a pathway for tribal sovereignty. And the way that the bill is written right now, again, as uncodified law, it is tight to what compacting is, and there is no legal mechanism in this bill to do any type of privatization. There's no voucher option. There's no religious school, altar, whatever. This is following the state of Alaska's constitution, and it's just about the compacting piece, and that's what this is. So that puts a smile on my face, because it allows for those things that we've negotiated for so long about centering tribal voice, following the Constitution, and this represents a partnership that does both. So there are concessions that we talk through in negotiations, but it's something that right now, as partners, the way that it's written, everyone can stand behind. And that to me is just so exciting, because in this part of that historic moment, it's very rare for tribes and state or federal governments to get together in that way and have something this positively presented. So again, that's the smile on my face.
Goodness, geez, Joel, and I know we're coming close to the end of the hour, so I hope you've been enjoying your lunch while you're listening to this great conversation. If you could have sat with us during negotiations over 6 to 8 months, you will know they were fiery, they were passionate, they were exciting. And I saw Santa Roach put in there about statewide, and just want to say, like, in our report, that was a lot of our conversations, was the statewide supports and mechanisms and the things we're going to continue to advocate for, that won't just support state tribal education compact schools, but are going to help support all Alaska Native, all non-Native students in the state of Alaska through that advocacy in organizations as well. So stay tuned for the very end of this to hear an announcement that's related to that. And then I know, Peter, you dropped a question there. We'll try and get an answer in the chat for you as well, because we did want to make sure there was time for questions. But I do want to give the tribal representatives one last opportunity in a minute or two of time to do you have any messages you want to share with the public or legislators about why this effort matters?
Yeah, so I'll get mine out of the way quickly, if that's okay. So I just, like Deena, I started in this business 1990 as a teacher. And before that, I worked for a tribal organization as an instructor. But just going back over the years, watching my own children who are Indigenous and have the full extended family and are enrolled members of a tribe, and my grandchildren as well, and just seeing the possibility of what could be with education, and also knowing that there's a need for a transformation in the state of Alaska. That if we keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, we know what that represents. So let's try something a little bit different that gives the possibility of a transformation. And a pilot project is a great way to do that, because then, you just, in a small capacity, you go out and try these things. So I'm super excited about this. I wish I was 20 years earlier in my career so I could continue on for another 30 years. But it's in capable hands. I'm super excited about the possibility, and I just enjoyed working with everybody as part of this project, and hope to see it come to fruition with tribal compacting. So thank you.
And this is Mark. For me, this is a part of the Alaska Education Challenge, and everybody's heard that. And it offers our students, and we know there's a number of students out there that are struggling in education. And this opens up the door to really offer opportunities for students that they didn't have necessarily before. And I believe we're going to be seeing, and we see evidence of that, students improving. And when that happens, it also improves the local communities. It becomes a healthy communities, because without education, it affects everything else in Alaska, in our communities. And this is one way that we can address the issues of everybody's concerned. Everybody's concerned about this. And so when we start looking for solutions, this is a viable public solution and option that brings the tribes, there's 229 tribes in the state of Alaska, brings the tribes, the state together, the communities together, and everyone together. Because as you heard before, this isn't just for Native students, this is for all students. And all students are going to benefit from this. And all students are going to benefit. If you're living in a community, then as in any community, you're learning how to live in that community. And this brings us together so that that can actually happen. So thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I'll chime in really quickly. As you can tell for us in Nome, our focus would be on, language revitalization of our Inupiaq language. And one message I want to share is that now is the time to do this because we have elders in our community, in our communities who were raised by elders before contact. So our elders today, they know the most traditional forms of our languages. And now is the time to work with our fluent elders to bring them into our schools and to ensure the continuance of our languages for the strength of our people. And through the language, as mentioned earlier, students are taught so much more than, just reading and writing. Students are taught survival methods and survival methods in some of the harshest climates of the world. And students learn about anatomy and physiology, weather, the environment, science. There's so much to learn from the people who have lived here in Alaska since time immemorial. Enough.
I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. It has been an amazing few years of getting all this together, and I'm really excited about the prospect of it moving forward quickly. And so I just think that this is an opportunity to look at the bigger picture. We're, everybody wants to look at it as these, we're starting with this 5 tribes, but it really is a huge opportunity for every village, every town, every city, every place, just everywhere in the whole state. And I'm super excited about that. So I just want to thank everybody again for all the time.
Sonia, I would just echo that. I think, there was a huge movements across the state of Alaska that we've leaned heavily on since the 80s and the words and the powers of people before us. And I will be honest, though, for those of you that are here, and especially our Indigenous folks and our supporters and our allies, this is a heavy load to carry for 5 tribal partners. And you would be amazed the power of your voice, the power of picking up the phone call, the power of checking in, the power of partnerships and relationship building. And that's what we're here for, we're ready for, but we could really use more help spreading the word, letting us know what you're hearing, and helping us facilitate these conversations because we are tribes. We are in this situation where we get to have a government to government relationship. And so for us, that's transparency, that's communication. And that's really empowering for us to enter into this space in a really good, positive way as well. So I will turn it now to our deed partners to kind of wrap up, as well as highlight some of the next steps. I do know for some of you guys that are NIEA folks, be on the lookout. We're going to be doing some meetings statewide across Alaska. Sonia and I both serve on the board there, and we're really trying to get people together and continue this advocacy forward at a statewide level. So I'll leave it to our deed partners to wrap us up.
Joel, would you like to start?
Sure. I just want to say Chicken Chinan to everyone and for Central Council for holding the Zoom space and for those attending, and that I hope that people got to see how we can demonstrate that there is good partnership between the state and the tribes, and that this really does center tribes' voice. So just want to appreciate the folks on the call.
Karen, did you have anything?
I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be part of this process. It's very exciting, and I echo, what Commissioner Bishop has shared, and just what an exciting time it is for us to do this work. It's much needed, and I'm grateful to be part of this process. So thank you.
And I don't really have anything to add than that. It is exciting. It's innovative. It allows a voice, the voice where it should have been all the time from the beginning. And I'm really along for this journey and supporting Alaska's youth and their education. It's a worthy cause. So thank you.
Goodness to all our panelists and attendees. Today's forum is one part of a larger conversation about educational sovereignty and equity. So we invite you to continue learning about HB 59, follow the bill online, see when there's opportunities to give testimony, and support this important work. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.